The trade station called Skybridge floated between two bright stars like a long silver road in the dark. Ships from many worlds came and went every hour. Some were small and fast, like birds made of light. Others were huge and slow, carrying cargo and travelers across great distances. Inside the station there were endless walkways, glowing signs in many colors, and voices speaking in 100 different languages. It was a place where dreams, deals, and troubles all met in wide, shining space. The human man lived a quiet life here. He was not famous. He was not rich. He worked in a small repair corner near one of the lower docks, where travelers often passed by without noticing him. His job was simple. He fixed broken tools, cleaned worn parts, and helped people make their machines work again. He liked this work because it felt honest. When something was broken, he could see it, touch it, and make it better with his hands. Every morning, he woke in a small room with one narrow window that showed the stars. He drank warm tea from a metal cup and watched the ships move slowly across the dark sky. He never rushed. He believed that life was not about how fast you went, but about how steady you stayed. That evening, the station was louder than usual. A big trade event had just ended, and travelers filled the walkways. Lights flashed above shops and food stalls. Music from different worlds mixed in the air. The man finished closing his small repair booth and began to walk home. He liked to take the long way. Through the upper level where the windows were wide and the view of space was clear. As he walked, he noticed an alien woman standing near a glowing sign shaped like a spiral. She did not move like the others. Most people rushed past, talking, laughing, or looking at their devices. She stood still, her hands held close to her body, her head slightly lowered. Her skin had a soft blue tone that reflected the station lights in gentle waves. Her eyes were large and dark, full of worry. He did not plan to stop. He was tired and ready for rest, but something about her stillness made him pause. He took a few steps closer and spoke in a calm voice. "Are you all right?" She looked up quickly, as if surprised that someone noticed her. Her eyes met his, and for a moment, she said nothing. Then she nodded, but the nod felt weak, like a habit rather than a true answer. "I will be," she said softly. He could hear the strain in her voice. He did not push. He only stood there, giving her space. After a moment, she spoke again. "You are human," she said. "Your kind is known for helping even when there is no reward." He gave a small smile. "Some of us try." She took a slow breath. "I do not have much time. I owe a debt to the company that controls travel permits on this station. If I cannot clear it in 2 months, I will be forced into a contract that will decide where I live and what work I do for many years." He frowned slightly. He had heard stories about these contracts. They were legal, but many believed they were unfair. Once you signed, you lost many choices. "Why tell me this?" he asked. She hesitated, then spoke with care. "Because I have been offered a job that can clear my debt. It involves attending official events and meetings. I must appear with a partner, someone they trust, someone who looks honest and calm, someone human." He raised an eyebrow. "And you found me near a broken vending machine." Her lips curved into a small, nervous smile. "I watched you for a while. You helped 3 people without asking for extra payment. You fixed a child's toy even though the parents said they could buy a new one. You do not look at others as if they are a problem. You look at them as if they are people." He did not know what to say to that. He scratched the back of his head, feeling a little awkward. "What are you asking?" he said. She straightened her posture as if gathering courage. I ask you to be my partner for 2 months.
Only in public and official spaces. We will attend events together.
We will speak to company leaders and council members. At the end, when my debt is cleared, I will share the reward with you." He was silent. The station sounds filled the space between them. A ship roared softly outside the window. A group of travelers laughed as they passed. "You do not have to say yes," she added quickly. "I know this is strange. I did not know who else to trust." He looked at her face. He saw fear, but also hope. Not the kind that expects something for free, but the kind that asks for a chance. "Tell me your name," he said. She blinked. "My name is Lyra." He nodded. "I am just a repair worker. I do not know much about high places or big meetings." She shook her head. "That is why I chose you." He thought about his small room, his quiet mornings, his simple life. He thought about the stories he had heard of people losing their freedom because of words written in fine print. "All right," he said. "I will help you." Her eyes widened. "You accept?" He nodded, without hesitation. For the first time, her worry softened into something like relief. She placed a hand over her chest and bowed slightly, a gesture from her world.
"Thank you," she said.
"You may have just changed my life." They began to walk together, side by side. She told him about the job. It was sponsored by a group that wanted to show the station council how cooperation between species could lead to fair systems. They needed a pair that represented trust and balance, a human and an alien, standing together in front of those who held power. The next day, everything moved fast. The man received a simple uniform from the group that hired them. It was clean, dark, and comfortable, with a small symbol stitched on the shoulder that stood for unity. Lyra wore a flowing outfit made from light fabric that shimmered softly as she walked. Their first event was in a grand hall at the center of the station. The ceiling was high and clear, showing the stars above. Long tables were set with food from many worlds. Leaders, traders, and officials moved in small groups, talking quietly. The man felt out of place. He kept his hands behind his back and stood close to Lyra. She noticed his tension. "You do not have to pretend to be someone else," she whispered. "Just be who you are." He took a slow breath and nodded. As they walked through the hall, people looked at them, some with curiosity, some with interest, a few with doubt. One official approached, tall and dressed in a sharp silver outfit. "You are the pair from the Unity program," the official said. "Human and traveler from the outer worlds." The official studied the man. "And you believe you belong here?" The man met his gaze calmly. "I believe everyone belongs where their voice can be heard." The official paused, then gave a short nod and moved on. As the night went on, the man began to relax. He spoke with traders about their routes, with workers about their jobs, and with leaders about simple things like food and weather on different planets. He did not try to impress. He only listened and answered honestly. Lyra watched him with quiet amazement. She had spent years learning how to speak carefully in front of powerful people. He spoke simply, and somehow it worked. Better. After the event, they walked along a quiet corridor lined with soft blue lights. "You were brave tonight," she said. He shrugged. "I was just myself." "That is what made it brave," she replied. Over the next weeks, they attended more meetings and gatherings. The man learned about the hidden rules of the station. He heard how contracts were written in ways that confused travelers, how small fees grew into large debts, how people were trapped without ever feeling chains. At night, he and Lyra sat in small cafes or near the wide windows that showed space. They talked about their worlds. He told her about rivers and forests on Earth. She told him about her home planet, where the sky changed color 3 times a day. One evening, she admitted something in a quiet voice. "I was afraid you would say no." He looked at her. "Why? Because most people here look at me and see a problem, or a chance to gain something." He shook his head. "I see a person who needed help. Their bond grew, not from the deal they had made, but from shared moments and honest words. But not everyone was pleased with what they were doing. One day, after leaving a council office, they noticed 2 station guards watching them from a distance. The guards did not approach, but they followed for a while, before turning away. "Do you think they're worried about us?" the man asked. Lyra nodded slowly. "The company that holds my debt does not like attention. They prefer quiet deals." That night the man lay in his small room, staring at the stars through his narrow window. He thought about how something as simple as saying yes to a stranger had pulled him into a much bigger story. He did not feel fear. He felt purpose. The next morning he met Lyra near his repair booth. She handed him a small data card. "This shows part of my contract," she said. "I want you to understand what I am fighting." He read it carefully. The words were polite and formal, but he could see the traps hidden in the lines. Fees that grew over time, rules that changed without warning, conditions that took away choice. "This is not right," he said. "That is why I need to finish this job," she replied, "and why I need you with me." He looked up at her and smiled, a steady, calm smile. "Then we will finish it together." Above them, ships moved through the open space of the station, carrying people to new worlds, new chances, and new problems. Down below, a repair worker and an alien woman stood side by side, ready to face a system much larger than both of them, guided by something simple and strong: the belief that no one should lose their freedom just because they are alone. And as they walked toward their next meeting, the lights of Skybridge reflected in the wide windows, shining like a promise that even in a vast and cold universe, small acts of kindness could still change the path of many lives. Morning light on Skybridge never came from a sun. It came from wide panels in the ceiling that slowly brightened, copying the soft glow of dawn from 100 different worlds. The station woke in layers. First the cleaning drones moved along the floors, then the food stalls opened their shutters. Then the voices of travelers and workers filled the air again. The human man stood at his repair booth, tightening a loose panel on a small cargo bot. His hands moved by habit, but his mind was elsewhere. He kept thinking about the data card Lyra had given him and the words hidden inside the contract. Polite words that carried heavy weight. Lyra arrived just as he finished. She wore a simple outfit this time, light gray with a thin line of blue across the shoulders. Her eyes looked tired, but when she saw him, she smiled. "Did you read it all?" she asked.
"Yes," he said. "Twice." She nodded.
"Then you understand why I cannot fail." He placed his tools away and turned to face her fully. "You will not fail. Not alone." They walked together toward the upper levels where the station council offices were. The hallways here were wider, the lights softer, the walls decorated with symbols of unity from many species. It was meant to feel welcoming, but to the man, it felt like a place where every step mattered more than it should. Their next meeting was with a group of trade leaders who controlled shipping routes between planets. These leaders worked closely with the same company that held Lyra's debt. If they could win even a small amount of support here, it would make the final presentation to the council much stronger. Inside the meeting room, a long table curved like a half-moon. Screens on the walls showed maps of star paths and moving ships. Several leaders sat waiting, their faces calm and unreadable. Lyra took a slow breath before stepping forward. The man stayed beside her. "We are here to speak about fair travel access," Lyra began, "and how current systems create long-term debt for travelers who only seek honest work and safe passage." One of the leaders leaned back in his chair. "Debt is a part of business," he said. "Risk must be balanced with control." The man spoke before Lyra could answer. "Control and fairness are not the same thing," he said. "When rules are too complex to understand, people cannot truly choose. They only follow." The leader studied him. "You are a repair worker, yes?" "Yes," the man replied. "And yet you speak about systems and choice." The man nodded. "I fix broken machines. When a part is too tight or too loose, the whole system fails." "People are not so different." There was a short silence. Then another leader spoke, her voice softer.
What exactly are you asking for? Lyra explained the idea of clear contracts, simple language, and fair limits on fees.
She spoke about how many travelers from distant worlds did not understand the station's legal systems and trusted companies that promised help. As the meeting ended, they did not receive a promise, but they did not receive a refusal either. For Lyra, that alone felt like progress. Later, they walked through a busy market level. The air smelled of warm bread, sweet fruit, and strange spices from far-off planets. Vendors called out in many languages. Small children ran between the stalls, laughing. The man bought 2 cups of warm drink and handed one to Lyra.
"You handled that well," he said.
She shook her head. "I was shaking inside." He smiled. "So was I. I just hide it better." They sat on a low bench near a wide window. Outside, a long line of cargo ships moved slowly toward the docks. "I used to think people with power were different," Lyra said quietly. "Stronger, smarter.
"Better? And now?"
And now I see they are just people who learned how to speak in certain rooms." He nodded. "And people like us learned how to listen." As days passed, their routine became steady. Meetings in the morning, events in the evening, quiet talks at night. The man began to notice how often Lyra carried the weight of the future on her shoulders. He also noticed how, little by little, that weight seemed to grow lighter when they stood together. But the company that held her debt was not blind. One afternoon, as the man worked alone at his booth, a tall figure in a dark uniform approached. The badge on the chest showed the symbol of the travel company. "You are the human who accompanies Lyra," the figure said. "Yes," the man replied calmly. The figure leaned closer. "You are involving yourself in matters that do not concern you. This station runs on agreements. Disrupting them can have consequences." The man wiped his hands on a cloth and looked up. "Helping someone keep their freedom concerns me." The figure straightened. "Freedom has a price. So does silence," the man said. The figure paused, then turned and walked away. That evening, Lyra listened as he told her what had happened. Her hands tightened around her cup. "I was afraid of this," she said. "They do not like being questioned." He met her eyes. "Do you want to stop?" She shook her head slowly. "No. Not now. Not after coming this far." "Then neither will I," he said. Their next event was larger than any before. The main hall was filled with leaders from many worlds, station officials, and representatives from the travel company itself. Screens showed the symbol of the Unity program behind them. Lyra stepped onto the small platform at the center of the hall. The man stood just behind her. She began to speak, her voice clear and steady. She talked about her journey to Skybridge, about the work she wanted to do, about how she trusted a company to guide her, only to find herself trapped in a growing debt she did not fully understand. Then the man stepped forward. "I am not here as an expert," he said. "I am here as someone who sees what happens in the lower levels of this station. I see travelers who fix their own ships, clean their own rooms, and work long hours to pay for a chance to move forward. When systems make it harder for them to stand up again, we all lose something." The room was quiet. Even the company representatives listened closely. After the event, people approached them. Some offered kind words. Some asked questions. A few shared their own stories of confusing contracts and heavy fees. That night, Lyra and the man stood near one of the highest windows on the station. The stars seemed closer here, like small lights within reach. "I never thought a repair worker would change my path," Lyra said softly. "I never thought saying yes to a stranger would change mine," he replied. She turned to him. "When this is over, what will you do?" He thought for a moment. "Probably go back to fixing things. But maybe I will fix more than machines." She smiled. The next days brought more tension. They noticed guards more often. Messages on Lyra's device warned her about contract violations. The man stayed close, not because he was strong, but because he was steady. One evening, they were stopped by a small group of workers near a loading bay. A pilot with tired eyes spoke first. "We heard what you said in the hall," the pilot said, "about fair contracts." Others nodded. "We have stories too," a trader added. Fees that doubled, rules that changed. Lyra listened, her eyes wide. "You should tell the council," the man said. "We are afraid," one worker replied. "If we speak, we may lose our routes." The man stepped forward. "If you stay silent, you will lose them anyway. Just more slowly." There was a long pause. Finally, the pilot nodded. "We will come. But only if you stand with us." "We will," Lyra said without hesitation. That night, the man lay awake again, watching the stars. He thought about how many lives were tied to lines of text on screens. He thought about how simple words, spoken in the right place, could be stronger than any rule. The next morning, Lyra arrived early, her face serious. "The council has scheduled the final hearing," she said. 2 weeks from now." He nodded. "Then we have 2 weeks to make them listen." They spent those days gathering stories, records, and proof. The man helped workers scan old contracts. Lyra organized the data, creating clear paths through complex rules. They worked in small rooms, crowded cafes, and quiet corners of the station. People began to recognize them, not as a pair from a program, but as voices for those who felt trapped. One evening, as they rested near a quiet window, Lyra spoke in a low voice. "I am afraid," she admitted. "So am I," he said. "What if it does not work?" He looked at her. "Then we will still have tried." And sometimes, trying is what starts the change, even if we do not see the end of it. She nodded, her eyes shining. The station lights dimmed for night cycle. Ships continued their endless movement through space. Job, and in the wide, moving heart of Skybridge, a human and an alien woman prepared to stand in front of power, not with weapons or wealth, but with stories, truth, and the simple belief that fairness should not be a rare thing in a universe filled with life. As they walked back through the quiet halls, their footsteps echoed softly, like a promise carried forward into the next day. The day of the council hearing arrived, with a strange stillness on Skybridge. The usual noise of the station felt softer, as if even the machines were waiting to see what would happen. The wide ceiling panels glowed with a pale morning light. Cleaning drones moved slower than usual. People gathered in small groups, whispering instead of shouting. The human man and Lyra walked side by side through the main corridor. Neither of them spoke much. They had already said everything they needed to say the night before. Now, it was time to act. The council hall stood at the center of the station like a great circle of glass and steel. Tall doors slid open as they approached. Inside, rows of seats curved around a wide open space. At the far end, a raised platform held the council members. Each one came from a different world, wearing clothing and symbols that showed their culture and role. Behind the man and Lyra, workers, traders, pilots, and travelers began to fill the seats. Some had taken time away from their jobs. Some had risked angering powerful companies just by being there. Their faces showed a mix of fear and hope. Lyra took a slow breath. The man placed a hand gently on her arm, not to lead her, but to remind her that she was not alone. They stepped forward when their names were called. The lead council member, a tall figure with silver markings on their face, spoke in a calm voice. "You have requested this hearing to challenge the contract system used by the travel company."
You may begin. Lyra stepped forward first.
Her voice was steady, but her hands trembled slightly. "I came to this station seeking honest work and safe travel," she said. "I trusted the company to guide me. Instead, I found myself trapped in a growing debt I did not fully understand. I am not the only one. Many here carry the same burden." She gestured toward the seats behind her. The man stepped forward next. "I fix broken machines," he said. "When something does not work, I look for the simple problem inside the complex system. What I see here is this: the rules are written in a way that many cannot understand. When people cannot understand, they cannot truly agree. They only accept." A low murmur moved through the crowd. A representative from the travel company stood up. He wore a dark uniform with sharp lines and a polished badge. "Our contracts are legal," he said. "They are approved by station law. We offer opportunities to those who would otherwise have none." Lyra turned to face him. An opportunity should not become a trap. The man raised a small device in his hand. "We have collected records," he said. "Fees that grow without clear reason. Rules that change without warning. Stories from travelers who worked for years and still could not move forward." He touched the device, and screens around the hall lit up. Lines of text appeared. Numbers, dates, and messages from workers filled the air. One by one, people from the crowd stood and spoke. A pilot told of a route fee that doubled without notice. A trader described a clause that forced her to work longer hours than she had agreed to. A young traveler spoke of losing his chance to return home because his debt kept growing. The council listened in silence. The company representative's face grew tight. "These are individual cases," he said, "not proof of a broken system." The man looked at him calmly. "A machine that breaks one part at a time is still broken." There was a long pause. The lead council member raised a hand. "We will review this evidence. Until then, the company will suspend all new contracts and penalties." A soft sound of relief moved through the crowd. The hearing ended, but the tension did not. As the hall emptied, guards watched from the sides. The company representative left without another word. Outside the hall, the man and Lyra stood near a wide window. The stars beyond looked cold and far away. "We did it," Lyra said softly.
We started it, the man replied. There is a difference. That evening, messages began to spread across the station.
Some praised their courage. Others warned them to be careful. The company issued a formal statement saying they would cooperate with the review, but cooperation did not always mean acceptance. The next day, the man returned to his repair booth and found it closed. A notice glowed on the metal door. Temporary suspension due to safety review. He stared at it for a long moment.
Lyra arrived soon after and saw his face. They are pressuring you, she said.
He nodded. It seemed so. They walked together to the lower levels where workers gathered. The pilot who had spoken at the hearing met them there. They closed your booth, the pilot said. They closed 2 others as well. Lyra's hands tightened. Because they spoke? Yes. The man took a deep breath. Then we will not stay quiet. They gathered in a wide open area near the cargo docks. Workers and travelers stood around them. Some were angry. Some were afraid. Lyra stepped forward. This is what fear looks like, she said. Not in us, in those who try to stop us from speaking. The man raised his voice just enough to be heard. We are not here to fight. We are here to stand. Together? The group nodded. One by one, more people joined. Later that day, the council sent a message. They requested a second session, this time with full station broadcast. Everyone, on every level, could watch. The hall was filled again, but this time, cameras floated in the air, sending the image across Skybridge. The lead council member spoke. We have reviewed the evidence. We have also reviewed the company's response. The company representative stood, his face calm but tight. We maintain that our system is necessary for station order, he said. The man stepped forward again. Order that only works for a few is not order. It is silence. The council member turned to Lyra. What do you want? Lyra took a breath. Clear language in all contracts. Limits on fees, the right to leave a contract if the terms change, and freedom to travel without being trapped by growing debt. The hall was silent. The council members leaned together, speaking quietly among themselves. Minutes felt like hours. Finally, the lead council member stood. We will enforce new rules. All contracts must be written in simple, clear language. All fees must be fixed and visible from the start. Any contract that changes its terms must allow the traveler to leave without penalty. A wave of sound moved through the hall. Not loud, but deep. Like a breath finally released. Lyra's eyes filled with tears. The man closed his eyes for a moment, feeling the weight of it all lift just a little. The company representative lowered his head and sat down. After the session, people crowded around them. Some thanked them. Some simply nodded with quiet respect. That night, the man and Lyra walked through a quiet part of the station where the lights were low and the stars were bright.
You have your freedom now, he said. Yes, she replied.
And so do many others. They stopped near a window. The glow of distant planets painted soft colors across their faces. What will you do? He asked. She looked out into space. I will finish my job, not for the reward, but to help others who are still learning the new rules. He smiled. That sounds like you. She turned to him. And you? He thought for a moment. I think I will reopen my booth and maybe add a sign. Help is free. Repairs cost time. She laughed softly. But even in the calm, they knew the story was not fully over. Systems changed slowly. People forgot quickly. The next morning, the man found his booth open again. The suspension notice was gone. Tools waited where he had left them. Lyra met him there, holding a small device. "They cleared my debt," she said.
All of it, he smiled. Then our 2 months were worth it.
She looked at him carefully. It was more than a deal. He nodded. It was a choice. They worked that day side by side. He fixed machines. She helped travelers read their new contracts, explaining the words in simple terms. People stopped to talk. Some brought food. Some brought stories. As the station moved through its cycle, the man felt something he had not felt before. Not pride, not victory. Connection. He realized that the greatest change was not in the rules or the contracts, it was in the way people now looked at each other. Not as problems, not as opportunities, but as voices. That evening, Lyra stood with him near the wide windows one last time. "My path will take me to other stations," she said. "There are still places where people do not know they have a choice." He nodded. "Then go show them." She placed a small token in his hand, a symbol from her world, shaped like a rising line. "For courage," she said. He closed his fingers around it. "For hope," he replied. They stood there for a long moment, watching ships move through the endless dark, two lives that crossed in one bright place. Two voices that spoke in one clear moment, and a story that would travel farther than either of them ever could, carried not by ships or signals, but by the simple truth that even in a vast and complex universe, fairness could begin with one person who chose to say yes. The station lights of Skybridge shifted into a warm evening glow, a soft gold that made the metal walls look almost like stone from an old world. The day had been long, full of voices, movement, and small moments of change. The human man stood at his repair booth, closing the last tool case. His hands were tired, but his mind felt clear in a way it had not before. Across the walkway, Lyra spoke with a group of travelers. She pointed at a contract on a small screen, explaining the new rules with patience. Her voice was calm and steady, and the people around her listened closely. Some nodded in relief. Others asked careful questions. When they finished, she walked over to the man, her steps light. "You look like you are thinking about something far away," she said. He smiled. "I was thinking about how strange life is. A few weeks ago, my biggest problem was a broken power coil. Now I watch people learn how to protect their future." She looked at the stars through the wide window. Sometimes the smallest doors open into the biggest rooms. They stood together in silence for a moment. The sound of ships docking echoed softly in the distance. The station never truly slept. It only slowed, like a deep breath between long days. Lyra held up a small travel pack. "My ship leaves in the morning," she said. He nodded. He had known this moment was coming, but hearing it still felt heavy. "Where will you go first?" he asked. "A station near the blue moons of Kareth," she replied. "Many travelers there still use old contracts. I want to help them understand the new rules." He smiled. "That sounds like important work." She returned the smile, but her eyes held a quiet sadness. "I could not have done any of this without you." He shook his head. "You would have found a way."
Maybe?
But it would not have been this way. They walked along the upper level, where the windows were wide and the view of space stretched like an endless ocean. Stars scattered across the dark, each one a distant world, with its own stories, its own struggles, its own chances for change. They stopped at a quiet corner where a bench faced the largest window.
"Do you remember the first night we met?" Lyra asked. He laughed softly.
"You mean when you found me next to a broken vending machine?" "Yes," she said. "I was so afraid." I thought my future was closing in on me like a wall. And now? He asked. And now it feels like a road, she replied. A long one. But open? He nodded. That is all anyone can really ask for. The night passed slowly. They talked about simple things, food they liked, places they wanted to see, small moments that had shaped them in ways they did not notice at the time. Lyra told him about her childhood on a world where the sky changed colors with the seasons. He told her about rain on Earth, how it sounded on metal roofs and leaves. They shared memories like travelers exchanging maps. When the station lights dimmed further, they stood and walked back toward their rooms. At the door to Lyra's quarters, she paused. I do not know when our paths will cross again, she said. He held up the small token she had given him. But I will remember this one. She touched the token lightly. And I will remember the repair worker who fixed more than machines. They shared a quiet moment. Then she stepped inside, and the door closed with a soft sound. The man walked back to his own small room. He lay on his bed and stared at the narrow window, watching a ship move slowly across the stars. He felt a mix of peace and emptiness, like the end of a long journey that had become part of him. Morning came with a gentle glow. He stood near the main dock, watching Lyra's ship prepare to leave. The vessel was sleek and silver, its surface reflecting the station lights like water. Lyra stood at the ramp, her pack over one shoulder. She looked back at him one last time. Take care of this place, she said. I will, he replied. And you take care of the worlds out there? She nodded, then turned and walked onto the ship. The ramp lifted, the engines hummed. Slowly, the ship moved away from the station, becoming a small light among many. The man stood there until it disappeared. Life on Skybridge did not stop. The crowd moved, the machines worked, the station breathed on. But something had changed. Over the next weeks, the man noticed it in small ways. Travelers asked more questions before signing contracts. A waif, a waif, a waif, a waif. Back again, workers helped each other read the fine lines on screens. Vendors spoke more openly about fees and prices. The repair booth became more than a place to fix machines. It became a place to talk. People sat on small stools nearby, sharing stories of their journeys. Some asked for advice. Some simply needed to be heard. The man listened. One day a young traveler approached, holding a contract screen with shaking hands. I do not understand this part, the traveler said. The man took the screen and read it slowly. He pointed to the lines that mattered and explained them in simple words. The traveler smiled with relief. Thank you. I thought I was the only one who felt lost here. You are never the only one, the man said. News from other stations began to arrive. Messages about changes in contract systems. Stories of travelers who stood up and asked for fairness. Some messages mentioned a blue-skinned woman who helped people understand their rights. The man smiled when he read those. One evening, a small group of station leaders visited his booth. They stood awkwardly, unsure how to begin. We have noticed what this place has become, one of them said. A gathering point, a space for voices. The man nodded. It just happened. The leader hesitated. We want to support it. Maybe provide a larger space, a place where people can learn and share? The man thought about it for a moment. As long as it stays simple, he said. No big signs, no rules that make people feel small. The leader smiled. We can do that. Soon a wide room near the central walkway was opened. It had plain walls, long tables, and screens that showed basic information about contracts, travel rules, and station systems. Volunteers from different worlds took turns helping travelers understand what they were signing. The man visited often, sometimes helping, sometimes just listening. One day, a familiar symbol appeared on the screen in the room, a message from Lyra. She wrote about the station near the blue moons, about travelers who had never been told they could ask questions, about a council that had begun to change its rules after hearing their stories. She ended the message with simple words, "Your choice still travels." The man closed the screen and looked around the room. He saw people from many worlds sitting together, leaning over screens, sharing words and ideas. He realized that what had started as a 2-month agreement had become something much larger, not a movement with banners and speeches, but a quiet shift in how people treated each other. One night, as he walked along the upper level, he stopped at the same spot where he had first seen Lyra standing under the glowing spiral sign. The sign still shone, its light soft and steady. He stood there for a long moment, watching the crowd pass by. A figure stood nearby, looking lost. A young traveler, eyes wide, hands held close to their body. The man smiled gently and took a step closer. "Are you all right?" he asked. The traveler looked up, surprised, then nodded slowly. "I think I will be," they said. The man felt a quiet warmth spread through him. The station lights reflected in the wide windows, stars shining beyond like endless possibilities. Skybridge continued its work as a meeting place between worlds, between past and future, between fear and hope. And in the heart of it all, a human repair worker kept walking, kept listening, kept choosing to help, one small moment at a time. Far away, a silver ship crossed the space between stars, carrying a blue-skinned traveler who shared simple truths in quiet rooms. 2 lives moving on different paths. One story still being written. Not in the halls of power, not in the words of contracts, but in the choices of ordinary people who decided that fairness should not be rare, and kindness should not be silent, even in a universe as wide and deep as the night sky itself.